What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Mindful Gains. I'm Bryce, and in this video, I want to talk about why your relationship will suck if you lack this skill. All right, now, I'm not just making this video just to tell you that you need to do this and you need to do that. I'm coming from a place of my own experience. This is something that I lacked in my relationships, and it took me a while to even realize that I lacked this. All right. Now, what I'm talking about is emotional maturity. All right. Now, before you click off the video, let me peel back some layers a little bit here. Now, this is something that I lacked in my relationships. And make sure you watch this video to the end because I'll share a few ways that I actually realized that I did lack this. All right. But emotional maturity, that ability to be able to understand what's going on within yourself when you're in an argument with, say, your spouse. That's when I really realized that I lacked that shit. That's why my relationship sucked. I was good in other aspects of my relationship, did what I was supposed to do, upheld my responsibilities. But when it got into, times to have healthy conflict, which is something that I personally never saw, when it came to the time to be able to do that, if somebody had a differing opinion or I felt like I was being met with defensiveness, then I would in turn become defensive. And then it would just kind of snowball into this escalated type of conversation that didn't even need to get to this point. But it's because I lacked that key component. I lacked the ability to recognize when I was getting triggered within an argument. And given that how I grew up and I never really saw how to have healthy conflict, that shit that I saw would come out when I would get into what I can only describe as like conflict with my partner. So that's why I think it's really important to be aware of yourself and to recognize if you may be lacking in that area. I think a lot of us do, honestly. And it's not only just being aware of your own emotions. Emotional maturity allows you to be aware of somebody else's emotions. I struggled with that too. If I got into an argument, it was kind of like I was only seeing it through my lens. I struggle with being able to kind of empathize and put myself in somebody else's position and be like, oh, okay, I see how you're maybe after the argument and after the dust had settled, I could see that. But it's key to be able to do it when you're in the moment. And it's also key to be able to express that you may need a moment. I struggled with that too. One of the ways that I realized I lacked this is because I couldn't express my emotions when I was triggered. It would just kind of come out in this elevated, escalated type of tone. And I wasn't able to really slow down enough to slow my system down enough to be able to even articulate what I was feeling or, I sucked at it. I wasn't able to share. I was so just taken by whether I was being defensive or just taken over by my ego and I got to prove my point, stuff like that, so I know a lot of us deal with that. And that was one of the disheartening signs that I realized that I sucked at emotional maturity. I didn't really have it. Another one of the ways that I learned that was I felt like I always had to make my point. I always had to make sure that my point was understood. And you don't necessarily have to do that. It's okay if somebody doesn't understand your point. You don't have to beat them over the head with it. And that was another mistake that I made. That was another clear sign that I lacked emotional maturity. The third, most gut-wrenching sign that I realized I lacked emotional maturity was when I realized I would raise my voice, when I would use harsh language, when my tone would shift, when I would step into this type of person that I am not proud of, when I would just, where I'm using foul language or sometimes even name calling, that was very unhealthy. And that was the stuff that I saw as a kid. And I would replay that stuff when I would get deep into these arguments sometimes. And I had to really become more aware of myself. I had to improve my self-awareness. That's the only way that I was able to overcome that. I was in a long relationship and that pattern, that unhealthy pattern would definitely show its ugly head when I would get into conflict. And I'm not proud of it, but I wanted to make this video in case you may be dealing with these types of things so that you can recognize that, hey, you might be emotionally immature. You know, if you're raising your voice, if you're constantly having to prove your point, if you're not able to catch yourself in those moments of being triggered and recognize your emotions and be able to even articulate to your partner, to your friend, to your family member, whoever it might be, that, hey, I need a moment. I feel myself kind of getting elevated here. I just need a moment. Can we come back to this? I didn't know how to do that shit. And I had to really do a lot of internal work. And I had to do a lot of unlearning of unhealthy patterns to be able to get to the point where I could even recognize that I was doing that. Sometimes, you know, we get triggered and we start to respond from this place of like automatic responses. You know, it's like this autopilot type thing just takes over us. And we might be replaying certain behaviors that we saw as kids. You know, it happens so fast that sometimes we can't even catch it. But if you struggle with that, I'm hoping that this video is able to shine a light on that behavior so that you can start making the first steps to correct it. I had to do a lot of work to correct that type of stuff. And you might be even wondering, how do I stop this behavior? Okay, Bryce, I hear you saying I need to work on this. I need to become more emotionally mature. How do I start to do that? Ultimately, just start becoming aware of when it's happening. If you feel yourself compelled to defend yourself, or feel yourself compelled to have to prove your point, or feel yourself about to call somebody out their name and be disrespectful, start to become aware of that, because a lot of that behavior is so ingrained in us that it pours out of us automatically that we can't even catch it. So the first step is to become aware of that behavior. That's the only way you're going to be able to change it. You can't change shit that you're not aware of. So start to catch it. And if you're like me, you might even catch it, but it still kind of shows up. And now you're kicking yourself like, damn, I want to change this behavior. Why do I keep doing this? It's because it's ingrained in you. That's why. So become aware of it. Then you can start working through it. You can start implementing practices to teach yourself how to shift this behavior. It's going to take patience. It's going to take practice, consistency, and a high level of awareness. So just be ready for that and be patient with yourself. Hopefully you have a partner who is patient with you as well, because that'll be helpful too. But yeah, if you deal with this shit, I've been there. If this video provided you with any value, please hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. Please check out some of my other videos. I'll be sure to leave one up here that's kind of related to this topic. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.